by going through, especially the calculator, and it kind of gave me just this whole relief of like, okay, for the first time in my life, I can kind of visualize like I'm going to be okay if I do this, and if it's not so bad, it's this. So, and that was just for me, that was just transformational.
Trevor, in addition to the piece of the calculator and then that kind of immediate like relief that it brought. So when I started working with Brian, my main thing is, I have all these different dreams. So I have my current life situation, but then I want to do extended travel and I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to have kids and I want to buy a home. And my main thing was like, okay, like, my husband, we've worked to save. So it's like I can feel relatively confident in one of these dreams, right? But like, what does it look like to put all those dreams together?
Welcome back to the Time Freedom Podcast, where you can learn how to rethink your work and your money to create a life you love right now. Join us for insights to help you find meaningful freedom so you can choose how and when and with whom you work for as long as you want. Here are your hosts, me, Brian Harriott, and Kirby Dennison. Today is a 2-for-1. We welcome Trevor Blondeel and Veena Harbaugh. Trevor is the founder of Manufacturing Greatness and host of the Mindfulness Manufacturing Podcast. With over 25 years of leadership experience in automotive manufacturing, including roles at Magna International, Trevor helps manufacturing leaders connect the top to the shop. That's awesome. Through speaking, coaching, and advisory services. He's a certified executive coach with the ICF, a Gina's emotional intelligence practitioner, and serves on the board of the Kentucky chapter of the National Speakers Association. A Canadian now based in Louisville, Kentucky, Trevor is known for his blend of humor and vulnerability in helping leaders overcome disconnection and build engaged, accountable teams. He is here with Veena Harbaugh. She is the Senior Director of Impact and Governance at Sendle, a carbon-neutral shipping company for small businesses, where she leads their work toward net zero emissions by 2040. Previously, she served as Director of Marketing and Communications at B Lab, the nonprofit behind B Corp certification. Veena has held sustainability and communications roles at Salesforce, San Francisco Environment, and the Center for Climate and Energy Solutions. A University of Iowa alum, like my stepsisters, Harry S. Truman Scholar, and MBA graduate from the Presidio Graduate School. She is currently writing her first book, tentatively titled Meet the Moment: How to Become and Stay a Force for Positive Change, which is focused on helping change makers avoid burnout and sustain their impact. All right, Trevor Blondeel, Veena Harbaugh, welcome to the Time Freedom Podcast. We're so excited to have you here.
Thanks, Brian. Hey,
Good
Kirby.
to be here.
All right, so to kick us off, first, let me say that I'm really excited to have you guys here because I feel like you are my new friends individually, but you don't know each other yet that well. And so I figure, what a great way to make a connection and do it live recording on a podcast.
Yes, so excited. More Trevor time.
Yeah, and for our listeners, I know Trevor and I know Veena because we are all three of us working on books as part of AJ Harper's book writing workshop. And that's how we've had a chance to meet each other and learn a little bit more about each other. And hopefully we can continue that today as we continue to dive a little bit deeper into each other's lives. So anyway, I'm totally excited to get started. But before we kick off, we ask kind of a little bit of a different question and wanted just to understand y'all a little bit better. And so I have 3 questions and you can pick one and answer. And I'll, just because we've got 2 guests, this is the first time we're doing this, I can kind of help direct you. But the 3 questions are, one is, what's something that you've changed your mind about? The second question you could pick is, who's somebody that's changed the trajectory of your life in some way, and why and how? Or the third one is, what's something that few people know about you that's interesting or intriguing in some way? And Kirby and I will also share that just so that it's all fair. I don't know, Trevor, do you want to start? Pick one and guide us.
Sure. I like the first one because I'm in my mid-50s. I think I'm in pretty good shape. And like, I have a belief that I could get up on one ski right out of the water.
I know where this is going.
And this summer on Lake 17, I still believe that in my mid-50s, and ended up tearing my latimus dorsi on the right side, trying to get up on one ski, because I thought I was like still 25. So my beliefs have changed on that.
Oh my gosh.
I love that. And Claire was the boat driver, so I really had nothing to do with it.
She pulled up great. She's just problem was that I don't think I ever was good at getting up on one ski, let alone in my mid 50s. So that was just a belief. And the second belief is that I always thought that everybody liked me, right? Like I'm so likable. But I've learned in my mid 50s that not everybody likes Trevor. And that's been something to learn. And that's another good one. But the reason I bring that one up is because, you make more room for wonderful people you meet in life. Like Brian, we didn't know each other a couple years ago. We just met each other online.
No.
And then all of a sudden you invited me to your precious Lake 17. My other belief is that, I thought that, some of your best friends are the ones that you meet early in life, but some of your best people you meet in life are later in life. And that you and I have become good friends, and I'm just grateful for that. And I believe that great people come into your life in certain times. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I just couldn't believe you'd make that special trip. I mean, appreciate it. Totally. Thank you, Trevor. How about you, Veena? What question would you like to take?
That is so sweet. I think I'll pick up on the first one too. I mean, I think just in general, reflecting about like what time freedom means to me and my shifting beliefs on that. I think, I always, whether it was like a conscious belief or not, have been really driven by like, I have to work hard. I have to prove my value. I have to, and just that kind of need to prove to myself and others. Then letting go of that belief has been huge. I mean, just like holding on to like the inherent worth of all people and that you don't have anything to prove. I think that's been, a more serious one, but a bigger one that's really, really changed and I think set me up for some of the ideas that we're going to be talking about today.
I love that. And also, you don't have children, because I actually learned about that as part of parenting books. So it's like you don't love your kid because of what they achieve. You just love them, And wow, that's awesome. Okay, Kirby. So the challenge for us is, as we continue to have episodes for season 2, that we have to continue to come up with answers to these questions over 20 or 25 episodes. So that's so that's our challenge. So as you answer, Kirby, I'm going to think of one really quickly.
Well, I didn't think of this one when we recorded the other ones. And I just was thinking about, for the listeners, when they listen to this episode, hopefully you've already listened to our first episode of season 2. And we were talking about embarrassing moments. And I shared with Brian this morning, like anything that my husband's involved in is probably embarrassing if it's in public. And so what's something that changed for my belief is that my husband's not always crazy, but most of the time is. And just really, he has like changed the whole trajectory of my life, because I mean, if you would have asked me, 13 years ago before we started dating, like I would not be where I am today. And he's just always like my biggest cheerleader. And he actually just walked by and was like,
good timing.
Good luck. I hope you have fun. He loves hearing about the podcast. So I would say that is probably my number one today.
Awesome. Well, I could share a meaningful one, but I'll just share a weird one. And I have a real problem with lyrics when it comes to music. And not just that I can't get them right, although that's also true. It's just I don't hear them. I don't listen to words. And so how this usually comes up is I'll say, Claire, I heard this awesome song, and it's because it's got a good rhythm. And she's like, do you know what that song is about? And it's usually like not something good or something terrible. And she's like, why do you like that? I'm like, what do you mean? Anyway, I don't even know what it's about. That's the problem. So it's just something that has impacted me in my life, mostly with her. Anyway, cool. Thank you for doing that. So before we get started, and the context for this episode is both of you were so gracious to be early readers and early adopters of some of the ideas in my book. I think, Veena, you looked at it over a year ago. You were like the first person. Trevor, 1 year ago, we were in the midst of it right now. It's hard to believe. And I've talked to you since off and on, but I'm hoping some things have stuck, and I'm curious what they are. And so it's almost like kind of an overview. Assuming the listener of our podcast has listened to season 1 and kind of have the ideas in mind, now they can listen to you and say, hey, you've sat with this a year. What sticks? But before we do that, I want to give also the listeners just a little bit of kind of quick demographics about each of you, so that if they can quickly identify with you or not, I think that's always helpful. So let's switch the order this time. And Veena, do you want to just share like where you live, if you want, how old you are, all that, the basic stuff that you feel like sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to share how old I am, because in part, Brian just came to my birthday party, so
Yes.
it's out there. I'm 37 and I live in the Bay Area. I am married. My day job, I work in sustainability. Yep, no kids, though I'd love to someday. So that kind of gives you a sense of where I'm at life stage wise.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Trevor.
So I'm that remarried guy in my mid 50s. Very happy now. Had an expensive divorce about 10 years ago, so that ties into time freedom. But life is good now. I reside in Louisville, Kentucky. I identify as a Canadian because I'm I'm just going back and forth a lot because my parents and my kids are there. But I like this area and like my freedom.
That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, let's just dive in. Let's go. I'll just pick on you, Trevor, because we're just going back and forth a little bit. But thinking time, actually, let me ask this question. What does time freedom mean to you first? And then what's one thing that kind of stuck out that you read that you think about these days?
Yeah. So it's just like, we got into this whole entrepreneurship and, the trap is you think you're going to spend less time and you're going to have more time freedom, but you actually work more because it is yours and you care so much. And then you get concerned about finances, right? Like even like month to month. And you really shouldn't think that way. We should think more open. And I think, by looking at a different way of looking at it, because truly I hadn't thought about the way I had ever before reading your book, Brian, and really thinking, okay, so I wasn't really on that pact of like, hey, I want to retire at this age. I've worked in manufacturing for 25 years. And once I got more into this whole lifestyle, I was like, hey, I want to do this. But I think by going through, especially the calculator, and it kind of gave me just this whole relief of like, okay, for the first time in my life, I can kind of visualize like I'm going to be okay if I do this, and it's not so bad, it's this. So, and that was just for me, that was just transformational.
It's amazing to me. Like it's usually around the concept of like, what if I veer off and take a short break for 6 months, or our income's down a little bit for several months? Like when you do look at it long term in the calculator, it has a very small impact.
Mm.
Mhm.
And it's hard. You think it would be huge because it's in the moment, I think. But that's interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah. And, last week I just found out my 85-year-old dad in Canada has stage 4 cancer. And
Ooh.
that's bad. And what's good is that I can go spend time with
Yes.
him, that I can pause, that I do have the time freedom that I get to, right? And I'm not going to be worried about this or that. And I think that's just another sign that it's like, hey, this is good because I do have the time freedom to be able to make that choice and I don't have to ask anybody's approval.
Wow. My grandma died of colon cancer, and I hadn't been close to her because, one side of the family you're close with, one side of the family you aren't growing up. But I tried as an adult to establish a connection with her, and I'm so glad that I did. It wasn't because I had time freedom. I was just fortunate enough to be able to do that. And I think back as like, I'm so grateful that I did that, because I could have easily not. And then that would be one of the things that I regretted. Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Trevor.
Yeah, I just want to add too, Trevor, like way to think of that as a positive too. I mean, in such extreme circumstances, like that you can see something positive out of that.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks,
beautiful.
Kirby.
All right, Veena, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I love the way that you all describe it, like the freedom to work with who you want when you want. I think that even though I work a full-time job, I've been really lucky to work by and large with people who I admire and respect, and that give me the kind of flexibility and freedom to work in different ways. The piece that I'll add on to that for me about is that impact is really important. So it's like, I'm working sustainability, and so for me, time freedom is not only work, but life, just big picture, knowing that, yeah, I'm making the impact that I want to with my time, and that I have agency over that. And the thing I'll pick up on that you said, Trevor, in addition to your dad, I'm so sorry, is the piece of the calculator and then that kind of immediate like relief that it brought. So when I started working with Brian, my main thing is, I have all these different dreams. So I have my current life situation, but then I want to do extended travel, and I want to be an entrepreneur, and I want to have kids, and I want to buy a home. And my main thing was like, okay, like, I've my husband, we've worked to save, so it's like I can feel relatively confident in one of these dreams, right? But like, what does it look like to put all those dreams together? And so then that's kind of really what I brought to Brian and what we worked on with the calculator, and kind of that exact same feeling of like relief and then confidence is what I walked away with. That, hey, like, you don't need to do all these things at the exact same time. That's probably not smart, but that all of it is possible. And then, what it means to move dreams towards plans. And I think that's kind of what both the Time Freedom book and then now this podcast is supporting me with.
I had a weird experience around that, which is I also want to do a lot of things, and sometimes a lot of things cost a lot of money. And when you're always trying to save up to some number, there's like a finiteness to it. And the concepts that, I don't know, do they come to you or like you kind of stumble on, which is if you decide, hey, I'm going to work just longer. I like working. Trevor, I know that this is you and Veena probably as well. Like if you know you're going to work longer and you can just work on making the job better, you can make a lot of money not because you don't have to make as much in a year, but you can just make it over more years. And it's almost as though working forever or working longer is more freeing than trying to retire early, which is so backwards when I first thought of that.
When I think about that though, Brian, I always go back to like what Claire asked you when you thought you were going to retire early. She's like,
yeah.
what are you going to do with your time? So working longer also doesn't sound like such a bad thing.
Claire, we're not going to retire early. Okay, well, what does retiring early mean? I don't know, the same thing, just a little bit less. It's like, that's not retirement, man.
Like nothing's going to change, but a little less.
She's like, why don't you just do that now? I'm like, okay, well, let me think about that. So once again, Claire gets credit for the idea, and then, we'll just work the numbers and make it work. That's cool. Awesome. If I flip back to you, Trevor, anything else that sticks out?
Well, there's
You
lots.
guys are so thoughtful.
I still think about this whole, like, I think about when I was in my 20s and I, just took out some of my early savings and dumped it in this stock a buddy told me about, and I lost $5,000. But I didn't realize how hard it is to earn it back. And that's what kind of like I didn't like about, learning from you is like, I'm a business major and I didn't really think about that, right? And it's kind of, and you can explain that better, but just it takes so much longer to earn than it is take to lose it.
Yeah, and what you're referring to is it's in the chapter I think I have where I talk about savings and how important savings is, not only because it's a form of freedom, like if you have a year's worth of income saved up, boy, that makes you feel good. But it also allows you to wait out losses and, loss asymmetry. That was the whole concept. And so, when your money falls by 50%, it needs to grow by 100% just to get back even. Yeah, that's huge. And it is, you'd think, I mean, I've been doing money stuff since in my early 20s, and I never really thought of that. I mean, maybe I read it, but it just didn't click. I don't know. It wasn't really until just like 3, 4, 5 years ago that I really, really understood exactly. And I think people poo-poo it because the stock market just keeps going up. But I'll tell you, people, it's not going to always do that. I mean, so many people think it does because they probably can't remember. I mean, well, Trevor, you and I are a little bit older. We know that it can go down.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's great. I tried really hard in the book to have, I don't know if it was AJ that taught us, but to try to have some sort of something unconventional of a teaching point in each chapter. And I just remembered that one was so interesting to me that I'm like, I had to put it in there somewhere. So cool.
That prompts for me, Brian. One of the things that really stuck with me was the money styles, because even though, studied business, just the investment stuff never stuck and never and so I loved the money styles because it just let me off the hook a little bit, where it's like, you don't have to be good. You don't have to understand everything. Like if you at least know your style and can rock that. So that was one, maybe it stuck with me because it gave me a little bit. Yeah, it kind of let me off of like not knowing or understanding everything.
What's your style, Veena?
Yeah, what is
I'm a maker.
You're a maker, just like in the sample in the book, chapter 12.
Yeah, I mean and that's what's so fun to me is so fun about business, right? It's like you're solving a problem, you're creating value. So it's always more fun to put my energy there than think about either is it minimize and manage, or those the other two?
Yeah, wow, that's pretty good.
Those. Yeah, a little more struggles. And so even like the concepts, like the investment concepts, I think I didn't I think it's going to take a second read for me, Brian, to totally get them. But they are, so clear and helpful too, though.
Well, that's interesting. Like, I probably rewrote those investing chapters 5 times to continue to keep the essence of them, but simplify them, take the terminology out of there because it's, it's important to make it accessible, as we know from our editing passes. I was just talking about the money personality and the money profile or styles, whatever you want to call it, on another podcast that I was on today. The host was suggesting how a lot of the early people that work on that came up for the financial planning industry. And so the money manager, which is the one who saves and invests well, was always the good one. And it's the good one because it's the one that allows them to invest their money with the financial advisors. And, financial advisors usually don't want anything to do with entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs are investing in themselves, not the stock market. And so that's why they're treated separately. But anyway, I think they are both great. And I also actually, the money minimizer, I don't know if I've ever told you this, Veena, but when I was writing that section, I was actually thinking about you too. I don't even know if you identify with the money minimizer, but you had said something to me once when we were at the writing retreat. I think about like, I don't know, something related to like, the capitalist society that we're part of and everything associated with it. And I've actually thought a lot about that since that conversation. I definitely haven't told you that. And I always place people that have those types of thoughts and philosophies in the money minimizer piece too, because money is not the only thing at all.
I thought the moneymaker was the best one because that's what I am too, Veena.
Same.
And Kirby as well.
Yes. See, that's the beauty of the book is everyone's good. So whatever you are is the best one.
But this got really interesting because I liked it so much that my wife, Diana, my wonderful wife, Diana, she read the book as well. And then we end up having a call with Brian because there's a little bit of not marriage counseling, but it actually it actually helped us have conversations we weren't having before. Like it's not that we weren't having them, but it gave us more context to have the conversation. And then Brian kind of helped facilitate, a little bit there, but we were already doing that. But she's always been a money manager, right? And I've always been a money maker. It's kind of like, whatever, I'll just make more money. If we're going to, publish a book, then we'll figure it out later. And then she's like, okay, so what's happening this month, right? We're going to run a deficit. And it's like, okay, well, it's an and, right? And I think that's where the personality is that I think we've all got some of that personality. And then it's how do we complement each other? And we're actually better now after having those conversations, after going through the time freedom. And it's actually, and there wasn't much tension before, but it just got us more on the same page. So I just really appreciate having the language I didn't have before and then listening to the podcast as well, and it helps as well.
That's awesome. What do they say? Money is at least the top 3 reason that couples would have argument. Again, I think it goes back to, I didn't know that anyone looked at money differently than I did up until 5 years ago. But now I realize that there's a very real reason why people are having arguments around money is because they value different things. Exactly like you're saying, if your spouse was raised where money was tight and, you were raised where you had a lot of money and then you come together, of course you're going to have different views on that and it's going to lead to disagreement. Until you realize that and recognize it, how can you adjust for it?
I'm curious, Veena, what's your husband?
Well, he's a manager, but then I do think we both of us, because of our values around sustainability and things, have some minimizer tendency.
Can you?
That does sound like me, Brian. Some critiques about the capitalist system, because that's what I'm so passionate about is how people on the planets and how can we redesign systems for that. And so I think that there's and I guess I'll just step back a little bit to say something I love about both your book, Brian, and then this podcast with Brian and Kirby together is you come at this oh, this is so practical, it's pragmatic, it's formulas, but then you touch in on all these giant deep questions of how do you want to live? What are your values? What is the construct of work? What is so it's you support with the practical parts. And, I even get out my notebook and write the formulas and stuff, but then you touch into these deeply personal and philosophical questions along the way.
Well, that is a compliment because I've never been described as philosophical before. So I will definitely tell Claire that tonight.
Or maybe it's
we
more
see
Kirby.
her influence. and
Maybe it's
yeah,
more Kirby.
and Kirby, yes.
I mean, yeah, it depends on the context, I guess. If you got it more in the book, then
Yeah,
not so much.
that's
But
right.
if it's a podcast, it's probably me.
Oh yeah, you guys
That's
were
great.
quite questioning the whole industrial systems. I'm picking up on it.
So, can you just tell us a little bit more about what you are, what you're well, actually, how about like what you're writing a book about? Because usually, if you ask someone if they're writing a book, what they're writing a book about is probably what they're passionate about. And I'll give you a chance to talk about that, and Trevor, you too. And I want to make sure that people, know where to find you guys as well, because I want them to.
Yeah, we're all students of AJ Harper, and one beautiful thing that AJ does is she makes you get really clear on who your book is for. And
Oh.
so I'm writing for people who kind of similar to what I spoke about. They want to, see the world work better for people on the planet. They are these change makers, but they're feeling really overwhelmed and overworked and ready to give up. So my book is to help them kind of tap into their power and potential. The working title is Meet the Moment: How to Become and Stay a Force for Positive Change.
Because people who have that passion can easily burn out. Is that the idea? Because it seems like an unwinnable fight.
Exactly. Change is so long and complicated and, you go backwards. And so the real core of it is, looking back at what's helped me over the last 15 years, stay in it and become more effective. And what I figured out was a way of managing my efforts with it. And so actually, when we were together, I had a big breakthrough on the book around my core message. So Brian might remember that the nugget that I came to was that like the core of staying in change work is about acceptance. And so accepting along the way the state, which isn't the same as acquiescing and giving up, but that acceptance is really what fuels that journey of change. And so, yeah, Brian got to see me really struggling with that, and then also, make some progress on that, which is so helpful to do in community because it's the work of writing is tough, but it's so much more helpful when you can just like sit and turn or get some encouragement from a fellow author, which I have from Trevor too. So I want to hear more about your book, Trevor.
That's awesome, Veena. It is cool, like how you and Brian build off each other, like in that time, spend a whole week together, talking deeper about your concepts, and that's amazing.
How was it for you? Because Trevor then went to that same retreat just a year later, right?
Yeah. It's just good to have a whole week just to kind of think deeper about something, right? Especially, so I'm manufacturing background, ran manufacturing plants for 25 years. And it's really just how much did you make in the last hour? Very task related, very high paced. We think that we're saving lives, but we're making parts. And so it's a lot of emotion, right? And then you get caught into the whole just lifestyle of just being busy all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start following other people's behaviors, and all of a sudden you start to lose your own behaviors of like just telling people what to do, becoming more authoritarian and just driving to get it done. Because I wanted to show people that I could do it, right? I can run plants and I can make this happen. But then I started doing it in a way that wasn't true to me. And just, started skipping the conversation and just started putting pressure on people because I had pressure on me. And that really kind of led me to, 10 years ago, start my own business and do a lot of personal reflection of like, hey, this is not kind of who I am. I don't just tell people what to do. I have good relationships. And so that my whole book, Manufacturing Greatness, the same in my company in the book, and will be the name of my podcast. I'm going to change that too. So it's all the same, but it's really written for anybody that's working on like those construction or logistics, energy, that kind of space. And it's written for people that want to get good results, but they're struggling getting people to do what they want to do or even stick around. And they may not realize it, that, they can leverage the resources you already have just by how you show up, how you make expectations clear. And I believe accountability can build trust. And it just comes through having some deeper conversations. And I wasn't always good at that. And I had to practice that. And I want other people to be able to know that, having a hard conversation actually decreases trust, and holding people accountable actually builds trust too.
That's awesome. Anyone listening, if you have an idea that you want brought forth in the world, you got to write a book. I mean, it was transformational for me, just in terms of realizing what's important to me and why I think the things that I think and what I want to get out there. I don't know if Veena, you and Trevor had that same experience, but that's definitely been crazy for me.
Totally. I think, and especially the level of rigor that our shared teacher, AJ Harper, puts to
Mhm.
it, it's like the goal is to write a book that, can change somebody's life. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I wrote an entire manuscript that I just shelved afterwards because it just wasn't quite the book that
Before you had met
before this
yeah.
one, and just the process of and it is a luxurious thing to get that much time to like reflect and think too. So I'm really
Mhm.
grateful for that. And it's been hard, but like yeah, so rewarding just to kind of do some of that deeper thinking and then get opportunities to connect with people. I think that's just, we're
Yeah.
just at the beginning of that, all of us in our own ways of what the power of connecting through our books with people will be.
Awesome. I want to ask kind of one final question before we find out where we can get in touch with you both, but it's kind of related to part of chapter 6 of the book, which is the look back, look ahead lifestyle design. I'm curious if you've thought ahead to 10 years from now and what you see your life being then, either in terms of the people you're with or the place you are or the thing that you're doing. Dream for us here.
And then take it to the calculator.
And then we'll put it in the calculator.
Yeah.
See if we're gonna make it. Yeah, I think we talked about a little bit of this at the beginning, but like having choices of like who you work with and who how you spend your time. There's a time freedom of just doing what you want to do, but then I do like my work and
Mhm.
we're all working on we're working on this book and I want to be able to work on that for a long time and and not have any limitations around that and maybe have a f- have a little bit more like in 10 years from now more flexibility on it, but I mean I'm going to be a lot smarter because I'm going to have learned from other people than when I talk about those concepts, right? So I think you get better as that goes along, and I look forward to just having more people in life, right? Just kind of like how if I wasn't writing a book, I wouldn't have met you three,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
Kirby, I've had great conversations with you, and it's just I think the more you kind of get into that space, the best years are ahead of us.
You're like moving I think of it that way too, like you're kind of designing who the people you are that you wanna hang out with. You know? And I found like in meeting people who value this same concept of time freedom, they're all people that are good people and like people that I wanna know better. And so I'm cheating the system by like finding the people that I wanna hang out with, basically. Like you both. Anyway, go ahead, Veena.
Yeah, I mean, 10 years from now, I do, yeah, picture kind of all those dreams that we talked about. Like
You're in your late 40s.
I'm in my late following, I think, some of the paths that you all are trailblazing there for me of, having a business that makes a difference, having a lovely family, spending time in nature is really important to me. So those are all kind of the things that I can picture a decade out and hope come to pass.
Awesome.
And you
Cool.
can
All right.
have all those, Vina.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. Kirby, keep me honest. Is there anything we should that you want to know that I haven't asked?
I don't think so. I
This
think,
has
I
been a great
mean,
conversation.
it really has. And I could think a kind of a common theme here is like through all of the episodes, even is with time freedom, is like wanting to value or have value. And we've all anchored it to proving ourselves to something very specific and what that looks like. And like just seeing the different perspectives of what that can look like, not being tied to an income or being tied to
Hmm.
your savings account or something like that. Trevor mentioned like having choices. I think that's a common theme through all of our episodes. And then Veena, you really, I think drove it home this episode is like the impacts that we want to have on others. And that has been something that I've been really focused on in building my business is I always wanted to like be the impact and have a trickle down effect. And so I was doing that from behind the scenes. And now like hearing you say that is just another reason why that we need to speak up and we need to get our messages out there so that we can create that bigger impact of the world, I guess. So thank you.
Yeah, and what I've noticed is that we want to do these things that are meaningful and
Mhm.
intentional and all that. And for many people, you're just kind of struggling to get by, keep your head above water, deal with the life, and then you feel bad. Oh man, I wish I could do that impactful thing that I'm supposed to do. And like we need to cut ourselves some slack there. And what I've realized is that time freedom is kind of in an in between state. So if you can kind of manage your work and everything you're dealing with and do it in such a way that you have time freedom, now you have the time to go do those other things, and so trying to jump over it is difficult. But anyway.
Totally. And the thing I'd add there is I think we're also having all these impacts that we don't even realize, like the
Oh.
people that we're influencing along I was trying to think back to where some of these ideas of time freedom were modeled for me. And the person that really came to mind was this guy named Doug, who I was an assistant for in college. And he was a serial entrepreneur. And he was just kind of like your classic deal maker. And he would fly his Cessna plane from place to place, and just epitome of time freedom in terms of Doug did what he wanted when he wanted to.
Nice.
He didn't have his ideas in the fancy language of impact that I do. He was more just tuned into fairness and honesty, and was just incredibly generous to people, including myself along the way. And I think there's so much of just, in being who we are and pursuing this, alignment, freedom, any of those things, you're influencing so many people without you realizing it too.
Awesome. Trevor, where can people find you? I know you have a podcast and the book. Where do you want to direct people?
Yeah, at trevorblondeel.com, and I do some of the speaking on there, manufacturing greatness, and LinkedIn is still, I find, a great way just to connect with people. Even in our author community, I connect a lot of people that way
Awesome.
too.
Cool. Veena, how about you?
Yeah, same for me. LinkedIn is a great way to get in touch, and then VeenaHarbaugh.com. You'll find everything else.
Excellent. Trevor and Veena, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. I'm so happy.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Kirby.
Cool to be on.
Yeah, nice. Awesome.
Part of your banter. You guys do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, what a cool conversation. I'm so glad. They're such awesome people. They are such awesome people. So the one thing that stuck with me, Kirby, is that, and it was a very small thing that Trevor said that I think is very helpful. And that is when you're in the moment and you're thinking about some sort of financial thing that has to happen, oh no, I'm not going to earn for 6 months. It seems huge in the moment, but when you project that out over the rest of your life, it is a tiny little blip. And until you have a means with the calculator to show that to yourself, it's really hard to believe it. But then once you believe it, then you all of a sudden have this confidence yes, I can go take 6 months basically off and go spend it with my father who's got stage 4 cancer. I guess it wasn't a small thing. It ended up being a very big thing. But it comes from a small little point, Yeah, that was what stuck with me.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the ones that stuck with me the most too, is that both of them said that when they did the calculator and when they were doing the work with you, is that they were able to have better conversations with their spouses, because I remember having that same feeling when we did our calculator. And then also seeing when you do your calculator, just that sigh of relief that it is manageable, and just reaffirms no matter where you are. I think we've mentioned this probably on most of our episodes. No matter where you are, it might not be that 3 years, but it will be 5 years, or it will be 7 years, or 10 years, or whatever the case is. And so that gives you that hope. And I just remember that exact feeling that they were describing of the sigh of relief, the it's going to be okay. My hard work did pay off, and it's going to be okay.
It's a simple little online tool that it sends you through emotions. The first one is okay, this is going to work. It's the relief one. And then it's the fun one, which is, let's see what we could tinker with here in terms of how I live my life to see if I can do it even better, which is kind of the cool next step. So
yeah,
I think it's pretty cool that that's what stuck with us, because they're both mentioned in that chapter within the book. I actually mentioned Trevor by name, and then as I've mentioned before, Veena is kind of the person that I based the calculator example on. So glad we got to have a chance to have him on the podcast.
Yes, it was such a fun conversation. So go leave us an honest review on all of the platforms. I almost said LinkedIn, YouTube.
You can.
Yeah, come to LinkedIn. You can leave us a review there, and like us on all the platforms. And
timefreedom.life. That's where you can find all the good stuff too. Okay, thank you, everyone. Hey, listeners of the podcast, I have a special deal for you. You can now pre-order my book, Time Freedom, if you go to the link timefreedombook.com. And my special is, normally, if you order 3 books, you can get the audiobook free immediately. If you put the promo code podcast, you can order 1 book at your favorite retailer, Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, wherever, and put your order number in the form, put the promo code podcast, and I'll immediately send you the audiobook for free right away. So you don't have to wait. Pre-order the hard copy book, get the audiobook free. Thank you so much for your support. timefreedombook.com.